In the winter of 1872, the air over Devon smelled of salt and death. It was a cruel kind of cold, the kind that didn't sting the skin but instead numbed the bones straight through. She boiled her linens. She kept her shoes clean. She prayed in church, with her head bowed just low enough to be devout, just high enough to still be noticed. Her hair was always pinned, her voice never raised, her teeth white, not for Thomas, nor for the others. This time, not just infants, whiter than anyone else's in the village. She had a glow about her, too much glow, some would say, but no one listened to them. That is the way of small towns and quiet evils. But not everyone forgot. Not all. The gravedigger, old Peter Hemsley, noticed. He kept count of the names, as he always did. He knew that 12 babies had entered Marjorie's home that year, and he knew that not a single cross had been carved in the soil to mark their leaving. And though he was a drunk, and though he was near blind, he was not yet mad. He began to ask questions, not until it was far too late. The kind of cold that turned cradles into coffins. The midwife who helped deliver him cried more than the mother when she heard. But Marjorie said nothing, just held the body like it was sleeping, and murmured a prayer too soft to be remembered. The coroner called it natural causes. These things happened, especially in winter. Infants were delicate. The ground was hard. Life was harder. In that season, in a cottage too small for the rumors it would later house, lived a nurse, a widow, as she claimed to answer to the name Marjorie Hartwell. But that was not her name. Not really. That was the name stitched onto her white apron, worn when she walked through town offering help to the pale and poor and the desperate. To the women, especially the women, she'd knock gently, always gently, and say in her soft voice, "Give him to me. I'll care for him like he's my own." And they did. Over a dozen mothers, some too young, some too broken, some ashamed, handed their newborns into her arms wrapped in nothing but the hope that they might live. For a time, they believed her. You see, Marjorie was a kind woman. That's what they all said. Kind and quiet and neat. The first baby died in her care on a Tuesday. His name was Thomas, just 10 weeks old. But the thing is, there was no grave. One by one, the babies vanished beneath Marjorie's roof. At first, the village grieved. Then it whispered, then it forgot. And that was when the dying began again. The constable came on the 4th day after Peter Hemsley disappeared. By then, the town had grown colder still, the frost thick on every window pane, and Marjorie's fire burned brighter than anyone else's. Suspiciously bright. Her chimney, they said, smoked too much. The constable, a man named Harrow with a limp from war, had no warrant, only whispers. But in villages like this, whispers are enough. She answered, calm, smooth, stillborn, she said, 3 weeks ago. But Harrow had read the records. There had been no such birth. He knocked. She opened, smiling, always smiling. In the other, something sharper. The blade caught his stomach before he could shout. As he fell, she whispered, they were mine. They all were mine. Her hands were red with soap, her sleeves wet. Her house was small, a sitting room with a Bible and a child's rattle on the mantel, a kitchen with pots to clean to have been used, a hallway lined with faded photographs, none of them showing children. As a man, a father, a man whose own daughter had been taken by fever last year, whose pain made him seek justice in places no one else dared. He brought a spade and a lantern. He waited until the smoke no longer rose from her chimney, and then he broke the lock. Tiny shoes, dozens, laid in a row, each tied together with twine, like trophies, like memories, but no bodies not there. He found the nursery last, painted yellow, with stars drawn by hand on the walls. Empty crib, folded blanket, a name embroidered in pink, Eliza. There was no Eliza in town. She'd been scrubbing, always scrubbing. Come in, she said, if you must. He did, and he smelled it then, the thing beneath the scent of lavender and lye. Something sweet and wrong, something dead but not distant. The smell beneath the floorboards. Harrow searched, gently at first. He asked, he followed it to the garden. The roses bloomed too well, even in winter. The soil to black. He dug, 6 feet 8. His lantern flickered. Then he hit it. A sack. Then another. 12 in total, each filled with what once was a child. Some wrapped in cloth, others not. Some whole, some not. That night he returned, not as a constable. He tore up the floorboards, and beneath them he found shoes. Then the smell hit him harder. He ran, but not fast enough. Marjorie was waiting, her apron clean, her eyes wide. In one hand, a teacup. The snow began to fall, and Harrow's blood melted it. By the time the authorities arrived, the cottage was empty. Marjorie gone. No footprints, no witnesses, just blood in the snow, a garden of bones, and a nursery to quiet. They remembered the scent on her shawl, the way she had said "I'll care for him like he is my." Her real name, as uncovered by a London investigator weeks later, was Annabel Grace Goodwin, a midwife struck from the registry for unhygienic conditions and suspicion of negligence. Her husband had died years before, some say by poisoning. She had no children of her own, none living. They had wanted to believe her. They needed to. Or something darker, some old spirit that fed on sorrow and swaddling clothes. Because hope, when wrapped in lace and soft hands, is stronger than truth. The town froze with shame. No one wanted to speak. No one wanted to remember how they had smiled at her, how they had praised her kindness, how they had handed her children. But no one saw her fall. No one saw her die. And some say she didn't. Each time, offering comfort to those no one else dared help. Always babies. Always the abandoned, and perhaps others still, in villages too small to make the papers, in counties too proud to admit their sins, the unwanted, the inconvenient, and always they vanished. The mothers came, one by one, silent as ghosts. They stood in the garden, they looked at the roses, but Marjorie was never Marjorie. The child was never seen again. She had moved 5 times in 10 years, each time changing her name. In Yorkshire, she'd been Miss Gracie. In Norfolk, Mother Grey. In Devon, Marjorie Hartwell. What drove her no one knows. Was it grief, madness, a desire to be a mother so consuming it rotted her mind? They found Harrow's body but not hers. Her footprints ended at the cliff's edge. The sea below churned, because 2 years later, in a town 60 miles north, a woman calling herself Nurse Annie offered to help a young mother. The cottage stands still. They boarded it up after the garden was cleared, after the town tried to forget. But wood doesn't forget, neither does earth. And neither, it seems, do the children. Locals claim they've heard it, crying at dusk, though no babies live nearby. Thorns choke the rosebush, but still, some blooms appear in winter, red as blood. No one tends them. Others say they've seen Haran, old woman in white, standing at the window, holding something wrapped in cloth. But when the sun rises, there's always something inside, a toy, a ribbon, a pacifier. Tourists take photographs. Some capture nothing. Others show fingerprints on the inside of the glass. In her hands were 2 things, a single baby shoe and a drawing of a woman with no face. She doesn't speak anymore, only draws nod out loud. But they remember. The garden has grown wild. One girl, 15 and daring once, spent the night inside. She came out at dawn, barefoot, her shoes missing. Each year, on the anniversary of Harrow's death, someone leaves a cradle outside the cottage. Empty. The town doesn't talk about it. And far away, in another county, a nurse has applied to a new home for foundlings. Her name, you wouldn't recognize it, but her eyes, too white, too kind, too clean. And if she ever knocks on your door and whispers, "I'll care for her like she is my own," close it, lock it, and pray. Because some mothers don't birth children, they bury them.